It's Sunday Social, an hour dedicated to social media with Vaughan Davis.
And welcome to the show. I hope you're having a super sweet, swirly spring weekend. And welcome to episode number 82 of the show. Everyone is talking, tweeting, Skyping, posting, Tindering, and quite possibly grinding about Sunday Social. Very exciting show tonight as we're talking about a bunch of stuff that makes you kind of happy to be alive in 2015. Got to say, last week it was more about the silly stuff, but now it's about the important and positive stuff. In the second half, ASB's Simone McCallum joins us to talk about the reinvention of the piggy bank. Very high tech and very, very cute. And then I want to talk about something called the Coffis. The Coffis, you might want to go away and Google the Coffis in the meantime. What one is, where to find it, and are they disappearing almost as soon as they're becoming popular? As always, I'd love you to be part of the show. Tweet me at Vaughan Davis if you have the Twitter. Text me 3920 keyword live, and I'll see that pop up on the screen in front of me. And because it's an all live show today, and there's some spectacular gadgetry to see on the show, you can watch along on YouTube at youtube.com/Vaughan Davis TV. First, though,
it is the distant future, the year 2000.
We are robots.
The world is very different ever since the robotic uprising of the mid-90s. There is no more unhappiness.
Affirmative.
We no longer say yes. Instead, we say...
My guest tonight, Mr. Nigel Parker, had a great sleep on the 25th of August, but not such a good one the night before. His resting heart rate is lower than mine for sure, but some days it gets up there, which makes me worry if he's under a bit of stress. He exercises regularly and aims to walk 10,000 steps a day, although usually falls short. I know all this because I read it in a newspaper, and he knows all this because for every minute of the day, waking and sleeping, Mr. Parker is connected not just to a battery of sensing devices, but to the jolly old internet. Nigel Parker, welcome to Sunday Social.
Thank you, Vaughan.
What is that on your wrist?
So what I've got on my wrist here, this is known as a Microsoft Band. It's a device which we can use to test sleeping, test heart rate. It's got GPS for testing running. It's also got a UV sensor, so it can see how much sun exposure you're exposed to, and it's got temperature sensors for testing how warm you get or the heat in your skin.
What is the point of this?
Well, the point of this is really around providing information back to the individual around their health or their activity. I didn't start here. I probably started a few years ago with a device called a Fitbit, which was to detect my steps and my activity throughout the day.
Yep, I'm a big Fitbit fan. I've got one on one of my wrists at the moment, and it sort of started out as a glorified pedometer, right? But then got fancier and fancier and fancier.
Absolutely. So maybe 6 years ago, it was really the advent of the smartphone, and some of the apps that were coming on the smartphone was also when the first Fitbits went on sale. And that was really the start of this idea around quantified self or self-tracking, which became a bit of a phenomenon for geeks initially, who were pretty inactive and wanted to increase their activity.
Yeah, it's interesting that your Microsoft Band has a UV sensor. I can just imagine why that would be quite useful, because probably an alert will probably come up. Hey, it's been 9 days since you've been in the sunshine, geek boy.
Or the other side of that, being in New Zealand, being in summer, you can actually check and see what the UV levels are when you go out in summer and work out, the burn time and when you actually have to put sunscreen on, as opposed to just by making a guess.
That's kind of cool. So what was it that sort of kicked you into, apart from just the normal, I'm a geek, I'm going to try all the technology, take my money, give me the gadget. What was it that kicked you into becoming interested in these sort of health-related devices, the Microsoft Band in particular?
Yeah, so for me, about 3 years ago, I really wasn't that interested in the tracking devices when they first came out. I didn't have a motivation for it, and I was actually pretty inactive. But then I ended up having a condition. So maybe 3 years ago, I started to suffer from vertigo. Mm-hmm. And I went through all the medical processes of trying to eliminate and figure out what was going on. until eventually I went and saw a physio who told me that he saw a lot of people who'd been in front of computers or working as pilots or sitting in those jobs of low activity for about 10 years and started to develop similar symptoms. So what happened then is
but that's all of us. That's the entire world now. We all sit in front of computers and have low activity. Are we all going to get vertigo?
Well, vertigo or something else. I mean, maybe diabetes, maybe, there's lots of ailments that can kind of come from it. But then what I did find was that I actually had to get to the point where I had to learn to breathe again. I had to learn to eat. And I just didn't know these things until I started to discover what my body needed and the information that I needed to actually improve my personal position.
So some people, when faced with this challenge, would go to some bloody hippie and say, yoga me, baby. You instead went to a device.
Yeah, I did. But I first went to the hippie and that didn't work. So then I went on to the technology. I started with the doctors, went to the hippie and went to the technology. But what I found with the technology is that everyone's different. The effect of the diet that you have or the activity that you have, it's going to have a different effect based on who you are and what works for you. So when something works for somebody, they're going to generally go out and tell other people that that's what they did. But the majority of us maybe don't get the same benefits. So when you hear about the different diets, Atkins diets or paleo or all these other things, it really depends what's going to work for your body. And then once you can figure that out, you can actually improve your own body condition.
So I want to talk about the diet side of it, both the eating and the drinking in a minute, but focusing on the activity side. So run me through the types of activity, sleeping and waking, that and measures that your Microsoft Band collects and how you use that information.
So I'm not one to use technology for technology's sake. I'm one to use technology to improve personal position, so become more productive or become or solve a problem. And I like to think about it in the order of the change formula. So the idea that you've got something wrong, some resistance.
You remember we talked about, who's listened to the show, the change formula. What the hell's the change formula? That's like I've got $5 and I buy a $2.90 chocolate bar. The change is $2.10. That's the change formula.
Well, Kathy Dana Miller came up with this concept in the 80s. But really what it's about the first steps needed to change and the vision of how you want to change. And that is, times by the dissatisfaction with where you are needs to be greater than the resistance in order for change to occur. And when we think about why we would use technology in this way, it's actually in order to change something. And, that can be applied to any kind of habit forming or habit breaking motivation. So for me, it was really, I set my vision, which was I'm going to run 4,000 kilometers in a year. Now, this is coming from somewhere where I didn't even know how to run and I hadn't run since I was a child.
Yep.
And then I needed the device to measure it. So the first steps were actually just, as you say, starting to measure those steps. And I did actually achieve that. It took me 1.5 years, but I achieved that last year just by setting up the number that's important and then how I was going to get to the end of it. Mm-hmm. I've got a colleague of mine, Rowan Simpson. He talks about measuring everything, but then just focusing on the one or two things that are important.
So you focus on steps, you focus on movement. What are the other measures that interest you?
Yeah, so for me, it was heart rate. I found I had a really high resting heart rate, and that was adding to, stress, anxiety, and a bunch of other challenges. And what I was able to do is I was able to lower my heart rate from sort of the high 80s down to around 50. And I did that through a combination of breathing, relaxation, and also looking at what I ate, because I didn't even realize, but alcohol and caffeine had a big negative effect on my heart rate. So once I measured it, I figured it out, and I was able to reduce my caffeine intake. So
you mentioned heart rate, and the way you know what your heart rate is this band, which could be an Apple Watch, it could be a Fitbit, but in your case, it's a Microsoft Band, is constantly sensing your heart rate, and it's doing that sort of photographically, right? It's detecting the color of the blood pulsing through your veins.
Yeah, it's using a little light that figures the blood going through, and it measures it to give a pretty active reading of current heart rate.
What do you got? What do you got at the moment?
I'm about 83 right now.
What have I got? I'll have a look. I'll have a look at my Fitbit. This is great radio. Oh, I'm 63. Oh, who's nervous?
No.
Who's nervous, Nigel?
I'm actually a little sick.
Are you?
And that's and I haven't been sick for a year, but that kind of came out yesterday. And the early warning sign for me was my heart rate overnight.
So that's kind of interesting. So you not only do you go, oh, I wonder what my heart rate is now, you look at the graph of how it's been trending, right?
Yeah, and that is a bit of an early warning sign as to when something's going on.
Is there a danger that this is going to turn us all into people who are obsessed with these measures? We're going to turn up to the doctor and say, hey, my heart rate's elevated by 10%. I've clearly got beriberi.
It's possible. But that's why it comes down to, why you're capturing the information and what is the change you're wanting to make. There is a measure in Microsoft Health called VO2 max, which is about how fit you are. And it's something that's used, with elite sports people.
Yep.
And I use that to become fit. And when I started, I figured out that I had to elevate my heart rate to close to max once every day and then sustain that for time and then focus on that throughout the day. And I've been able to actually increase my fitness kind of exponentially as a result of using that particular measure.
Which is kind of cool. I want to talk about fitness after the break. I want to talk about diet after the break. You're listening to Radio Live Sunday Social with me from Microsoft, Mr. Nigel Parker. Back soon.
What do sonic tree testers, magic baby mittens, electric farm bikes, anti-cancer treatments and free school lunches all have in common? They're all finalists at this year's New Zealand Innovators Awards. Join hundreds of game-changing Kiwi innovators, entrepreneurs and investors and celebrate ordinary people doing extraordinary things at New Zealand's largest innovation event, Wednesday 21st October 2015 in the Cloud, Queen's Wharf, Auckland. Book tickets now at innovators.org.nz or call 0800 2Innovate. NZ Innovators Awards are proudly supported by Radio Live. It's Sunday Social, an hour dedicated to social media with Vaughan Davis.
And welcome back. With me from Microsoft, the most wired man you might hope to meet, Mr. Nigel Parker. How are you?
Really good, thank you.
Hey, we were talking before the break about your Microsoft Band, which is not like three geeks with guitars and bad lyrics. It's actually it's sort of a reverse home detention bracelet in that it's black. It goes around, well, your wrist in this case, but instead of making you stay home, it sort of forces you to go out, doesn't it? Get out in the sunshine, get out and run, get out and elevate your heart rate.
Yeah, well, you can wear it either with the screen on the inside or the screen on the outside. But I find the screen on the inside is great for running because it gives you the feedback.
You should hold that up to the camera so people can see.
So
If you're watching along, we're on youtube.com/Vaughan Davis TV, and you can see the gadget and the gadget Simone's bringing in for the second half. And how does it motivate you? Does it sort of do a little happy dance when you reach a target, or does it mope when you don't go running? And what little tricks does it use?
Well, this device itself doesn't necessarily have the motivation aspect to it. It's more of the capturing the information, and then if you log into the portal, you get a lot of additional prediction kind of information and improvement. So that's where
the back end gets motivating.
Yeah, and the app, the app on the phone kind of does
right.
That
the numbers,
part as well.
the numbers are the numbers are the numbers. I read something on the internet the other day, which I thought was a brilliant piece of original thought, but I've been since told is an old expression, and it's that you can't outrun a bad diet. Have you ever heard that expression?
I have, and
everyone's heard it apart from me. You can't outrun a bad diet, and we've talked about the running, the exercise, the climbing stairs, the elevating the heart rate. But you've also done some pretty sort of hardcore geeky stuff about the input side of your life.
So I learned the hard way about can't outrun the bad diet. It was about the start of winter last year. I was running quite a lot, and I really wasn't losing any weight, and I hadn't changed my diet at all. And off the back of a virus, I caught a immune disease, which was called urticaria.
You've got all the best stories, haven't you?
It's crazy. Who would have thought? And that made me allergic to running, and the only thing that kind of made it better was being inactive. So every time I ran and sweated, I broke out in full body hives.
Oh, yuck.
Lasted 20 minutes kind of thing. And so that forced me to effectively reset everything and look at diet and look at all these other aspects in order to cure myself of that condition, because the condition had no known cause and no known cure. So by doing that, and
you could have become a bubble boy.
Yeah, kind of.
That could have been great. It was behind the plastic. So you started examining in the same way that you've been examining your activity. You began examining your eating and drinking.
Yeah. Well, I was already kind of examining my drinking through an app called Untapped for my craft beer habit that I've had for a number of years. But I was able to then look at what else I was putting into my body. And I used an app called MyFitnessPal, which I started logging food for maybe three months as I deconstructed and bought things back.
It's a real pain in the bum logging food, though, isn't it?
It is. And I wouldn't do it unless you had a reason to.
Yeah.
Like I only did it for 3 months, and I basically did it till I was cured. And what I found out during that time is what foods work with my body, which ones don't, and the effect that they can have on me. And then when I had more of a particular type of food, if my ears glowed red, it was a good chance that my body didn't like that. And I lost a lot of weight. I lost about 10 kgs during that time as well. And that was mainly from understanding, what works for me and what doesn't. But that, I think everybody's different, and we've all got a different genetic makeup. So I don't think, what I learned about myself and my health would necessarily work with you.
Necessarily generalizes, and I don't want this to turn into the diet show, because I'm sure people will be turning off in droves. They're all sitting down to eat their Sunday lamb roast. I hope they are. Hey, this may be a diet related question. I don't know if it is or not, but I was looking on the Microsoft Band website, and it listed all the different other apps and platforms that it connected to. Right?
Yeah.
There was a running and cycling one called Strava, which is very popular, with a couple of other fitness ones. But one which kind of perplexed me is it hooks in with Starbucks. I'm going, what? So yes. If you exercise too much, does it prescribe a double tall frappe pumpkin spice latte or something? How does that work?
Yeah, that's a commercial aspect of the band.
Right.
So if you think it's like tapping it onto the the payment thing, and then you can load credit into it and use it to buy your coffee. So once you've gone running, you can tap
You
the
can
thing.
actually go and have a bucket of whipped cream or whatever they sell at Starbucks, but you're not going to diss Starbucks because you're from Microsoft's partner.
Yeah, but it literally is a payment aspect.
So the Microsoft Band is the piece of technology we're talking about, and it's the Microsoft equivalent of, in some ways, the Apple Watch, and in some ways, part of the Fitbit range. If I want one, how do I go about getting one?
Yeah, so currently they're just for sale in the US and in Europe. So I bought my one from one of the Microsoft stores when I was up in the US. That is the distribution channel at the moment, and I think it's mainly because they're still working through the technology and where it sits with Microsoft Health on the back end.
Okay, let's talk about your job at Microsoft. I don't think I've had someone in here from Microsoft before. What do you do? What's your Microsoft day job?
Yeah, so my role is I'm the director of developer experience, and that's a pretty interesting title. But my team and we really look after technical audiences in New Zealand. So that's everything from young people wanting to get into a future in technology, through to startups who are working on ideas that they want to export to the world. I run our startup programs, through to professional developers and IT implementers.
Okay, and what I saw something very interesting the other day, and I do a spot on the Paul Henry Show about tech, and they said, you've got to sit down and watch the Apple annual announcement, because that's going to make for great stories. So I dutifully got up at 5 a.m. and watched that damn thing for 2 hours. And perhaps the most memorable aspect was about halfway through, where they said, now we're going to bring on some developers to show, or some partner companies to show some of the great things that can be done on the new iPad. And everyone goes, oh, okay, wonder what it is. And on comes the person from Microsoft, and the whole room went quiet. That was a pretty crazy moment.
Yeah, it was. And I think what that was really talking to is this idea of, having software enabled via whatever device that people are using. Because we think about the mobility of people as opposed to the mobility of the particular device. And now that we're moving to having Office as a subscription, the expectation from our customers is that they can use it everywhere, whether they've got an Android device or an iPad or a Windows device.
Yeah, it's not just a bunch of DVDs that I slotted into my one computer in the study at home. It's part of my digital experience, right? So it needs to travel around with me.
And that's the way everything's working now. Is everyone's expecting whatever their experience is, it travels with them on whatever devices they have, whether it's Netflix or Amazon, reading books on Kindle. You need to feel that you can pick up where you left off when you move between your computer at home and your mobile phone.
I guess one thing that also travels across devices and travels in many places is this fitness information that you're recording, because it's not just sitting there on your wrist, right?
Yeah,
it's going to some computer and some island off Iceland.
Absolutely. And I mean, you can access it from anywhere, but what I found is that I export all my data and my family's data too, because my young daughters, both of them, and my wife all wear trackers. And then we export that data collectively into somewhere else. So we can actually start looking at as a whole area. That includes like the wireless scales we've got at home through Fitbit and my untapped beer data. And then it can start to look at it as opposed to an isolation on a single ecosystem, looking at it everywhere.
So if some computer somewhere, in this case a computer owned by Microsoft, knows how active I am, knows when I'm active, knows where I've been, how is the privacy of that data protected, the privacy of the individual who owns the data? I'm thinking, there are all sorts of cases. The classic is the ACC claim, right? They say, hey, Nigel, I see you just claimed $10,000 for a broken back, yet it says here that you've been skiing.
Well, I think that's why it's more important to have access to your data and to take it and put it somewhere where you own it. Because if the data is, not available to you and is not available to you to take away, then you can run into situations where you don't feel you might lose it, or what happens if you stop paying, or what happens if you stop using that particular
Ashley
device.
Madison.
Yeah.
There you go. What happens if you stop paying? Hey, Nigel Parker from Microsoft, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. You can follow Nigel at Zygel. What sort of name is that? Nigel with a Z after the N. I like it. It's clever on Twitter. Or where else is the best place to find you digitally?
Instagram. I'm on there. I don't use Facebook terribly much, but I've got a presence there as well.
I'd start with the Twitter. And that whole interview is going to be up at radiolive.co.nz under shows and Sunday Social. After the break, Simone McCallum with a new take on an old way to save your pennies, plus the best week's apps and websites. Back soon.
The latest news from the big stories. Radio Live.
An armed incident is underway in Upper Hutt.
But the footage is pretty incredible. It just shows a guy with his shotgun, but it wasn't drawn or anything, with cops surrounding him.
The shot fired, and
It's Sunday Social. Everything you need to know about social media with Vaughan Davis.
And welcome back to Sunday Social, and welcome back to the studio from ASB. Simone McCallum, how are you? Oh no, what have you done? Don't worry about that. Just pick up the main part of the microphone. if you're watching along on youtube.com/Vaughan Davis TV, you will see Simone's destroying the
That was
studio.
very exciting. Sorry, I dropped the entire microphone. Oh,
I didn't even know
fluffy
that.
bit
Yeah,
came
put
off.
that back on. I didn't even know that was possible. Hey, let's just divert attention from the microphone to a slightly friendlier piece of technology. So we don't often get to talk about your day job at ASB because we've got so much other stuff to talk about. But this time you've got some big news in a little yellow package. And again, if you're listening on, if you're watching along at youtube.com/Vaughan Davis TV, now is the time because we've got a live demonstration. What is that gorgeous yellow thing in your hands?
so this, I'm just holding it up to the camera here, is Clever Cash, which is a cashless money box. It's a super cute little elephant, and he's got a little screen for the purposes of those listening on radio. He's got a little screen on the front, which just kind of shows
A screen about the size of a matchbox, if you can remember what one of
Yeah.
those is.
And he's about 15 centimeters high, very lightweight. I brought him here in my handbag. And so what he does, Clever Cash, is that he is I guess a little tool for parents to help children understand how much money they've got in the bank account and kind of understand what is the deal with money when we're living in a digital age, because
So
you don't see
fundamentally,
money.
he's a money box
Yeah.
with no slot, no place to put the coins.
He has got a slot, but that's for
Oh,
USB.
He has
or
got a slot for a cable.
or whatever. Yeah.
So it's a really good point. I was watching some video content you guys made, and it made the really good point that, we grew up, you'd mow the lawns or wash the dishes, and you'd be given, a dollar or $2, and you'd have it in your hand, you put it in the jar, or you go to the shop and spend it. Nowadays, there's this thing. I mean, you're a parent. There's this thing with pocket money or money for kids. If you do it, it's all about IOUs, because you just say, "Oh, I don't have any cash."
Yeah, you don't carry cash around, and so when the Tooth Fairy arrives unexpectedly,
Oh,
what do you do?
gosh.
And Tooth Fairy doesn't really leave IOUs, and so the concept of where money comes from is unknown to children, and because they just see parents going and withdrawing money from these machines.
If they do,
or
if
using
they
cards,
do,
yeah.
just waving their card,
Waving their cards.
close to a terminal.
So they've kind of got no concept of saving and goals and understanding how that process works. And so Clever Cash allows you to set little goals for your child. So you might be saving for a particular item, or the latest doll or toy, or in my child's case, the iPad. And
She's
then,
gonna be saving
she's
for a
gonna be
long
saving for a
time.
while, I think.
How
but
many
anyway,
teeth has she got?
she's probably
Just
about halfway through
just
her
the
teeth.
usual number.
So the Tooth Fairy is not going to look very kindly on her, but you can set a goal, and then on Clever Cash it shows you your balance as you start saving money, as money is deposited into your bank account as a child. And so you can see how far you are through. It tells you, kind of gives you a little progress bar, and gives you little goals and achievement stars as you unlock them, as you go through the savings process. And it's a fantastic way just to really visually show them what's in their bank account, because otherwise they just have no idea.
So the thing I like about it is, in the olden days, by which I mean last week before Clever Cash was invented, in the olden days, you take your coin, you put it in the slot, and it was in the piggy bank. With this, you do something with your phone.
Yeah, so what you do is, with your ASB mobile app, you can just swipe money into Clever Cash as the money accumulates within Clever Cash. So, for example, if Nana pays $20 into the child's account, then that is deposited into their bank account, and Clever Cash essentially just syncs what is the balance right now, and so it will show you how much you need to pay, or how much you can swipe, using what we call a payment ceremony. So for the purposes of the people who are looking on the video, it'll show you different coins that are available, or notes, depending on how much needs to sync down to Clever Cash. And then you just kind of sync them, you just swipe them like this, swipe like that, and it goes into Clever Cash, as many as you have, and his balance is updated on the screen, just like that.
Easy peasy.
Oh, he's gone to sleep now, but yeah, that's how it works. And so the child can actually see, they kind of get the feeling of how much that money is. Is it $5? Is it $15? Whatever it happens to be, and they swipe it with you. So it's like, let's put the money from Nana into your bank account. So they do that, swiping from the phone.
And
and then
interesting
it's
that
on the
it's
screen.
that it's showing on your phone, at least, images of the banknotes and coins. I heard something interesting the other day when the new, frankly, garish, horrible new banknote designs came out. Someone commented these might be the last designs we ever need.
Could well be,
Was it-
although I did hear the head of the NZBA, the New Zealand Bankers Association, Kirk Hope, saying that actually there's more cash in circulation now than there used to be.
Is that
Yeah.
right?
So his theory was that perhaps people are storing it under mattresses, etc., in the wake of things like Christchurch earthquake. But there's actually more cash floating around somewhere. So
Who
surprising.
bloody knew?
I
And so tell me the bad news. I want one.
So if you want one, you need to register your interest at asb.co.nz/clevercash, and cash is with a K, bringing back the cash-in days, which was the original cash-in money box. So you can register your interest there and we'll keep you updated.
Very cool. Hey, on the innovation front, completely different sphere. I was reading about this week. This is an app, or it's an app and a platform that is aiming to get rid of service stations, which I didn't know was a problem. I quite like going to service stations.
Yeah, well, I don't.
Ah,
I think
it's
this
a girl
is
thing. It's a girl
great,
thing. It's a
'cause
girl
it's
thing.
a real that's the thing that I need to do, and I'm running out of time, and I need to go from A to B, and I just don't want to have to do it.
Yeah. So
And
what
it's
this is,
raining and
it's
it's
called,
dark.
the thing is called Purple, which is kind of cute. I don't know why it's called Purple, but it's called Purple. It's actually set up by one of the guys who co-founded Uber. So you know how everything is the Uber of whatever.
It's become a verb.
Yeah, he can kind of rightfully say this guy Bruno Uzan, he can quite rightfully say this is the Uber of petrol, and it's called Purple. What it does is, rather than like a schmuck driving down to the mobile and putting the thing in and pump and paying your money inside, you simply park your car as you usually would, open the app and say, hey, I'm at the Radio Live studios and I'd like some gas, please. Along comes the purple tanker. Gong, 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 gong. You've got the gas, you paid for it, job done. I think it's quite cute.
I think it's a great idea, provided you can get access to your car if it is overnight.
Yeah. So at the moment they do it sort of like a courier service that you can choose between 1 and 3 hours delivery, and then moving to the next step, which seems like the obvious one, overnight. So your car's parked in your carport or on the street. More, I guess this is an LA thing because it's based in LA. Everyone parks on the street. You got to leave your gas flap open. Which, I don't know, you're just as likely someone's going to come and siphon it out. But in the morning, it's all done, which is good. You need never go to the service
You do
station
pay a
again.
little bit of a premium for it. Is it around about 12%?
Yeah, but it's not it's not the end of the world, and it's LA, right? And most of their customers, they've got about 15,000 customers so far on this thing called Purple. Most of the customers are people in Beverly Hills and all the fancy places with the
Well, they've probably got chauffeur-driven cars.
They probably have.
Probably don't even ever go to a service station.
Mm,
No.
I quite like
But I
it.
think it's a good idea. Like if you're at work and you just you're going to need some petrol to get home or to get to your after work appointments, then great, just have it delivered.
Yeah,
while you're at the office
it's
doing
kind of
other
cute.
stuff.
Why do I have to go to the petrol when the
It's like
petrol can
Booking a
come?
car valet.
Exactly. Growing numbers of people are not going to is the office. And I think you may have told me this word. You may have been the first one to tell me this word. Instead of going to the office, especially self-employed people, they're going to the coffice.
Yeah, hang out in a cafe all day and
Yeah.
on your one cup of coffee. We used to do that when we were teenagers in McDonald's,
Yeah.
but
So-
that was kind of different.
So let's just talk about the coffice for a start. So the coffice is a cafe, but people using it as an office. So what it needs is big tables,
Yeah.
for your laptop and your pad and your meeting stuff, and that one cup of coffee you buy every 2 hours. It needs Wi-Fi and maybe it needs parking. I don't know. Coffices are getting wildly popular, and it turns out there is an app to find, or a website to find a coffice near you. The name of it is workfrom.co, and anywhere in the world you can type in, hey, I'm in Wellington, I'm in Dunedin, I'm in Invercargill, and it'll find you the perfect coffice.
I thought this was great, particularly if you're traveling.
Yes.
I know, so you go to
You know your
Sydney
local ones.
for 2 days or whatever, but like where you see a lot of people tweeting, does anyone know a good place with good Wi-Fi that I can go to while I'm in Sydney for 2 days? You see
Yeah.
that a lot. And so I think it'd be perfect for that.
Yeah, so it's only new, and I had a look at Auckland. There's like only 3 places it recommends, and one of them is a Gloria Jeans, which I think is a chain of some sort. But the other ones looked okay. A bunch in Wellington, naturally, the San Francisco of New Zealand, and it's a growing number. But I've noticed something recently, and this might just be me. This might be a trend. I've been seeing the rise of the anti-coffice. I've been seeing cafes not giving out the Wi-Fi, and cafes getting really small tables, so you can't work, you can't put out your laptop, you can't put out your papers, and it kind of makes sense.
Because they want the turnover of customers.
Yeah, if I'm a cafe owner, do I really want a big table with one guy and one long black per hour? Is that really good for me? So I don't know. Maybe the Coffice has had its time, but if it hasn't, workfrom.co is the place to find one near you. After the break, the very best in apps and websites to make it through your online week. Back soon.
First at 5 with James Coleman.
Tropical storm Ital triggered flooding and landslides overnight.
90,000 people have had to leave their home north of Tokyo. That's the Kinagawa River, sending just a huge wave of water.
Northern Ireland, the crisis there. Can you update us, Ollie?
The First Minister of Northern Ireland, a man called Peter Robinson, has now stepped down, but this is the most serious point yet in what has been a developing political crisis.
All you need to know to start your day. First at 5 with James Coleman from 5 a.m. weekday mornings. Radio Live. It's Sunday Social with Vaughan Davis.
And welcome back to Sunday Social. We're in the home stretch leading into its 8 o'clock and the weekend Variety Wireless coming up right after this. Hey, Simone, I walked here and it was getting dark. It was getting dark. Yes, my Fitbit was telling me how well I was going in terms of fitness, but it can be unsafe for a young man walking down Ponsonby Road at 7 o'clock at night.
I think it depends on how young the young man is.
I suppose it does. I'm quite young indeed. But there's an app for that.
This is a great little app. This is called Companion, the Companion app. It's they're also called Walk Me Home, or people are referring to it as Walk Me Home. It's developed by some university students in the University of Michigan, where you can have someone accompanying you virtually as you walk home. So it kind of tracks where you're going as you're walking home. And then there's a couple of things that will trigger an alert, like if you start running, if the earphone socket gets pulled out of your iPhone or out of your phone, or if you fall over, or if you stray off your path. I think that's it. Then it kind of works that out, and it sends a message to you as the person walking, but I think it also sends a message to your companions, so they can kind of track you and then see whether you respond or not, to say, are you okay? And if you don't respond, then the option is to alert the authorities and play a very loud sound to your phone, apparently.
That's really cool. So I tried that on the way here. So clearly I walked too fast to start with, because it was giving me alerts every 30 seconds saying, are you okay? Unless you respond in 15 seconds, we're going to tell your companion. Which
could be a bit annoying.
Yo, slow down. But the way it works is, so you download the app. The name of the app is Companion. It's available for Android and for iPhone. It's free, which is good. They don't want to profit out of the security app. And then you say, here are my companions. So you name a few people that you consider to be trusted contacts, and it gets their mobile numbers. And I will say, if you want to sign up for this, make sure that your friends' mobile numbers are in your phone in the international format, because it's an American app, so it needs to know what, 0064, that sort of thing. And then when you want to walk somewhere, start a journey, you look on a little map on your phone, say, I want to go here, and it says, okay, this is going to take 12 minutes or whatever it's going to take, and it follows you along, which is kind of cool.
So could you set your walking speed? Could you make it faster or slower?
No, it just assumed a certain speed, and clearly I was going too fast to start with, because I thought I was running. So that's
it wouldn't work if you're on a bike.
No, it's a walking. Yeah, it's just for walking.
Right.
Just for walking. I think it's really cool.
Biking would be quite good though too. I mean, if you got knocked by a car.
Yeah.
All those things.
I like it.
But I think it's a great idea for like walking from the bus or train station back to your home if you commute that way.
It means your friends have got to be good friends. They've actually got to act on the alerts.
Expected home, like someone who's waiting for you at home.
School kids.
Yeah.
Brilliant for school kids, and also and sort of the evil side of it is you keep an eye on your naughty little son. Make sure that he walks straight home from the bus and doesn't go by the dairy.
Real time. That's the idea, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. You can see them on a map. You see them on a map. And the thing I liked about it the most, just before we move on to the next app, is as a user, when you're walking into the studio in this case, you don't have to say, I'm here, and turn it off. It knows. So the journey ends all on its own, and said, hey, we've sent a message to your companions saying that you have safely arrived.
It's a bit like when you use an Uber.
Exactly. You don't need to end it. It just finishes nicely.
Just finishes.
Which is kind of cool. Hey, another app which I was so the name of the app is Companion, free download for iPhone and Android. Another app that sort of made it back into the App Store today when I was having a look, and this is not a new app, and as you pointed out, you and I have spoken about this before, but it's been updated and revamped and made even more awesome, and I absolutely love it. It is called Read Quick.
It's a wonder.
I
don't know. So the way that this app works, well, I don't know. So the way that this app works is you install it on your phone, and then it just pushes words at you just in a very, very fast pace. And so you're reading one word. You can't see the whole, screen or clusters of words like you do when you speed read.
So it's a speed reading app.
Yeah, but it's just these words being forced down your eyeballs. It's quite violent.
I quite like it.
And so it's at really rapid pace. And so you're just kind of blinking. You have to concentrate quite hard. And
it's funny, all the things you hate about the app are all the things I like.
Well, perfect. But it's and you can set the speed, and so the default was 250 words per minute.
So it takes a chunk of text. So a normal speed reading app, or a normal way of speed reading, is you got a page of stuff. You scroll down, you sort of take it at a glance, right? Look at a block of text and absorb the meaning, and you scan down the center of the page. And instead, this goes one word at a time comes to your eyeballs and you must read them.
But see, the thing that I like about reading words on a page is that I can just skip this whole paragraph because it's boring, or I can just kind of run my eye down.
But then you're not absorbing it.
And I can run my eye down and just from the subheads get an idea of whether I want to read it or not. You see, you can't really do that. You don't know how far you are through. It's just these words just coming pummeling down your eyeballs, and you're like, oh, hang on, did I read? And then you've got to go back. I think you can go back about 5 words. I think
it'd be good for people who are right into efficiency, right? I was reading Elon Musk's biography the other day, and they were talking to him, or he was talking to the interviewer about, I really need a girlfriend, but how many hours a week? 10 hours? How much does a girl need? 10 hours, 11 hours? Now, what would have to shorten or move or change? So efficiency freaks. Elon Musk, he'd go, I've got to read, 10,000 words a week. I'll read it with this. Read Quick is the name of the app, and I quite love it.
But what's the comprehension like? I guess that's the other thing.
Yeah, that's right. Speed reading is no good unless if it all just sort of flows over you. And they claim that comprehension is really good. But have a go. It's free. Give it a try and see. Just it's fun. See how fast you can go. It's kind of zen.
It's a bit of a competition, I guess.
It is.
You can have a few kind of races with your mates, I guess, and see who can read as many words as they can.
Yeah, maybe if you've got Read Quick and you're maxing out and it can't even go fast enough, what you need is a new iPhone 6S.
Maybe
faster processor.
Does it have a faster processor?
Yeah. So I was, as I was saying to Nigel, I had the rare pleasure of getting out and watching for the first time in my life, actually, the Apple product announcement on Thursday. I think that's what it's called. And the downloads for me, 3 things. Firstly, new iPhones. They look just like the old iPhones.
No, they're completely different color.
Oh, you can get the pink one.
Yeah. Well, that's completely different color.
Would you get the pink one?
I'd consider it.
Oh my God!
Yeah, absolutely.
But in every other respect, they look exactly the same. They're technically faster. They've got a better camera. That's quite cool. Quite like a better camera. They've got a selfie flash. Yeah, good, bad, don't know. Kind of selfie flash, kind of cool. But the thing I quite liked is they have a thing called, what do they call it? 3D touch, where instead of just tapping on the icons, you can push harder as if your thumb's going into the phone and get more functions out of a thing. So that's kind of cool. So like control click on a computer. So that's the iPhone 6S and 6S Plus. iPads, bigger, stronger, more powerful, larger screen. The screen on an iPad now is about the size of a screen on a laptop.
So that brings me to the question of why would you buy an iPad Pro over a laptop?
Yeah, I don't know. Why would you? I don't know. I don't
understand why. So I've been hearing lots of people going, oh, yeah, this is perfect for me. I do lots of traveling and I do emails and blah, blah, blah.
You need to feel the keyboard. The thing I like about a laptop as opposed to a tablet is the keyboard's really good. I do a lot of writing. It's really good. Hey, and the other thing I really liked is the Apple TV, and we can talk all about Apple TV another time. Hey, Simone McCallum from ASB, thank you so much for coming and joining me tonight on Sunday Social. Thank you also to my first half guest, Nigel Parker from Microsoft, and my very, very new technical producer, Sam Vega. I'm Vaughan Davis, and I'll be back next week on Sunday Social.
Radio Live News up to the minute with Kay Albert.